If you want to get in the enemy's hole, you need to pay the Trolls toll. Which is about 40% of New Game Plus Spirit Godfrey, so, really it depends how deep your pockets are. Ladies, gentlemen, and tarnished of all ages, it's time to become the Troll itself. Today I'll be experimenting with a really fun weapon called the Troll's Hammer, which is especially unique as one of the only weapons in the entire game that both has natural elemental damage and can have an elemental buff or weapon grease applied to it on top of that. The damage that is on the weapon is fire, so I thought, screw it, let's see exactly how much we can buff the damage of this weapon and really take advantage of the way that it is made, and well, it's pretty damn good. The damage per swing when fully in gear is incredibly strong, averaging around 1200 on a plunge attack on just general enemies, which is your real bread and butter attack when swinging for pure melee purposes. On top of that, as you saw at the very beginning, the weapon's Ash of War is Troll's Roar, which when buffed up to the maximum hits like an absolute frickin' truck. Sorry, Radon, I don't mean that, this is fun. The Roar itself does a big chunk of damage, but it is the follow-up strong attack that is the absolute star of the show. It has some alright hyper armor, pair that with the poise-raising wondrous physic flask mixture, and you've got a relatively reliable ability to trade with this attack for massive damage if you learn the timings of the fight. This build isn't for running around pressing one button without thinking and making things fall over. Unfortunately, this one requires thought and timing, but when you nail it, it feels incredible, while doing an equally incredible amount of damage. In PvP, it essentially is just a colossal weapon build, but it does good damage when you hit normal weapon attacks, and on the rare occasion that you do get to hit someone with the Roar, even with its massive wind-up time, oh boy does it do damage. So how do we arrive at this level of power then, getting this kind of damage? Well, there are of course multiple steps. I'll tell you what makes it tick, and then I'll tell you where to get all of the individual pieces afterwards. Then I'll show you the attributes that you want to aim for to really make it shine before we cap it all off. As for how it works, the Troll's Hammer has natural fire damage. It can also have weapon buffs applied, and so we are going to use Bloodflame Blade, coating our weapon in fire that also applies a bit of bleed status build up over time on each hit. The bleed won't be happening a whole lot, as this incantation benefits significantly from attack speed over attack damage. However, if you are against an enemy with a particularly meaty health bar, the bleeds will definitely happen. When they do, however, we take advantage of it with the White Mask Helmet, raising your attack power by 10% for 20 seconds after a successful bleed. This isn't really replacing anything, so it's pretty cool. Helmet is a free slot really, so if it can boost our power at all, it is a bonus in itself. The real meat of this though comes from the fire damage. The innate fire damage on the weapon, combined with the additional fire damage from Bloodflame Blade, then boosted further by Flame Grant Me Strength, which boosts physical damage and fire damage by 20% each for 30 seconds. Of course, the weapon is naturally high on physical damage, and then both of our sources of fire damage on the weapon also get buffed. On top of this, as this build takes advantage of some faith, we of course have Golden Vow, a classic buff for pretty much any build that can fit it, raising all damage output by 15% and reducing damage taken by 10% for 80 seconds. The talismans are the Fire Scorpion Charm, boosting our fire damage by 12.5% in exchange for decreasing your damage negation a little bit. The Roar Medallion, which boosts our weapon skill Troll's Roar by 15%. The first hit does a good chunk of damage, but more importantly, it does a ton of stagger damage. And then if you press the heavy attack button, you get a follow-up slam with a big wind-up but an absolutely massive payoff. The Roar Medallion, because From Software know how to design a game with fun in mind, doesn't only affect the roar itself, but of course it also affects the massive slam afterwards. And to capitalize on that, we have the Shard of Alexander Talisman, which boosts all weapon skill damage by 15%, again affecting both hits. In our Flask of Wondrous Physic, we have the Poise increasing tier, allowing us to successfully use Troll's Roar just once more per fight, as well as the Fire Damage increase tier for a further 20% boost to our fire damage. As well, I brought up before that the Roar itself does an incredible amount of stagger damage, and well, if you want to be hyper efficient, technically you can offhand the Misericord Dagger with its 140 crit rate. Put Royal Knight's Resolve on that dagger for an 80% damage boost, and any Anytime you stagger an enemy, whip out the dagger, then apply the Ash of War to the dagger, then do the crit, but the timing window on this is just ridiculously tiny. And honestly, more often than not, within the same window, you could finish the slam attack with the weapon, and then if you're fast enough, maybe even also get the crit with the hammer anyways, for more damage overall. So, you know, it's all very situational, but long story short, if you care purely about the damage of the crit itself, Misericord offhand is the answer. If you care more about overall damage output, don't even bother switching, as you'll also have to reapply your Bloodflame Blade buff too. So it depends what your goal is in the moment, but honestly, in a world where the roar is a stagger, and then the slam hits this dog for 5,600 damage, who even needs to crit in the first place, am I right? For the buffs themselves, we need to have a seal to cast them, of course, and the best one for this is the Claw Mark seal for this build, as the Troll Hammer scales with strength above all else, so while we do get enough faith to manage, this build is strength mainly, and we get higher incantation scaling with this seal than with the others as a result. Yes, even better than that seal, no matter how many roses he kisses. To actually collect all of this stuff for yourself, then let's begin with the Troll Hammer. This comes from the old Altus Tunnel in the Altus Plateau. From the Site of Grace, progress down the first pit area in front of you, and then over in this shed you'll find the weapon on a corpse. The Clawmark seal comes from Geraint the Clergyman in the Beast Sanctum in Caelid after you give him your first death root. You can easily get one of these early on by defeating the boss in Summonwater Village, and if you want to know how to get the rest of them, check out our video on the Beast Incantations linked down below. Then if you want to play the crit heavy higher input style, the Misericord dagger comes in the Stormvale Castle. From the Rampart Tower Site of Grace, jump off of the roof immediately out of the door and jump across the backside to access this ledge. Jump off of it down twice in a safe manner, making sure to go through the bridge for extra style points. Once you land, you'll be in front of a stone sword keyed door. Open it up and in the back right corner of the room you will find this dagger. The helmet, White Mask, comes with the rest of the White Mask armor set from the Mohgwyn Palace region of the game. Once you have reached here, head to the Lake of Blood with the bird that you can see from the Palace Approach Ledge Road Site of Grace. You'll be invaded by multiple white masks along the way, and the one furthest towards this side will drop the armor set. If you have already killed the final boss of this region, these invasions will not happen, however, so sorry if you miss it on that. The rest of the armor set here is entirely your choice, so give yourself some nice fashion in whatever way that you please. The Fire Scorpion Charm Talisman comes from the fort in Mount Gelmir right beside the Seethwater Terminus Site of Grace. Head in through the front door, past the fire prelate in the door behind him, up the stairs, do a 180 back towards the western side, and jump over the railing to a wooden balcony, where you'll find this talisman. The Shard of Alexander comes from the Alexander questline, which I've recently been informed is less required steps than I used to think, so get ready for a much shorter description. Once you've defeated General Radon near his Site of Grace, you can find Alexander. Talk to him and exhaust his dialogue, then go to the Seethwater Terminus Site of Grace in Mount Gelmir, and head up to the lava pools just to the side, in the back of which you'll find Alexander. Talk to him once more, and he will move to Crumbling Farum Azula. From the Dragon Temple Lift Site of Grace, head forwards around the enemies and then up and over the crumbling runes to find Alexander on a floating section of debris. Talk to him, fight him, beat him, loot him. The Roar Medallion comes from the main boss located in the Limgrave Tunnels. And then finally, the last talisman is a bit of a flexible slot, but in my opinion the best choice is the Erdtree's Favor +2 talisman. This one has just a ton of value in the amount of health, stamina, and equip load that it gives you, saving you a number of levels worth of comfort in a single talisman. To get this one for yourself, once you have defeated the boss of Farum Azula, the city of Lane Dell will change. Once this has happened, go back up the elevator from the mountaintop of the giant side into Lane Dell and take the bridge back towards the city. In the big pit down this staircase, there are a goddamn handful of ulcerated tree spirits, and thankfully you are allowed to ignore them entirely if you'd like to, and run up to this bit of debris poking out of the ground in the back corner with the talisman sitting on the top of it. For the Wondrous Flask mixtures, we have the Leaden Hard tier, giving you an insane amount of poise for 10 seconds and allowing a full Troll Roar combo as a result, which drops from the boss at the Minor Erdtree in Mount Gelmir, easiest access from the Volcano Manor side of the mountain. As well, we have the Flame Shrouding Crack tier, which comes from the boss at the Minor Erdtree on the eastern side of the Liurnia region. For the incantations, Golden Vow you can find on a corpse in the aptly named Corpse Stench Shack on the eastern side of Mount Gelmir. Bloodflame Blade is right by the Rose Church in Liurnia, dropped by a scarab over in the lakes. Flame Grant Me Strength is behind Fort Gale in Caelid. Simply wrap around to the back of it, and between the two fire wagons you'll meet this incantation. Fun fact, Feierwagen is the German word for fire truck. It's not, I made that up. With that, we have covered all of the individual pieces, so what are the attributes that you should aim for while using the build? Well, always start off with a healthy smattering of vigor to avoid getting one-shot. You want enough endurance to have the ability to medium roll with our equipment as well as your personal choice of armor, keeping in mind that the Air Tree Talisman, if you are using that, does affect your equip load too. Your mind stat isn't incredibly important with this, you're mostly only using it for applying your buffs. The weapon skill uses a very tiny amount of mana compared to how often that you use it. Strength we want to get up to 40 at least as our first breakpoint, 12 dexterity if you want to use the dagger, faith up to 25 to be able to use all of our incantations. Finally, make sure that you have 10 arcane as this is the requirement for Bloodflame Blade. From here, you want to boost your health and strength up loads to the point where your strength hits 80 and health anywhere up to 60. When you are comfortable with your health, start increasing your faith as well to increase your fire damage even more on top of it all. And that just about covers it. The combat is really as simple as keep all of your buffs active as much as you physically can, and then whacking things in the head as hard as you physically can. While it may have some fancy stuff going on, at the end of the day, this thing is still just a big wooden club. I'm Cotton Dinosaur from RageGamingVideos, and this has been the Trolls Toll build for Elden Ring. Maybe not the most glorious of one-shotting builds, but oh man, does it pack a wallop in every single hit you make. Like if you like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.